It's Thursday, March 30th. This is a pre-opening SPY report, and after yesterday's green day, which looked like a bit of a breakout day from this converging wedge that was identified, we are gapping up again. If we go to the pre-market range, you can see here kind of to the close of yesterday up to the highs. We're kind of near the highs with about an hour to go before the market opens. We don't know exactly where it's going to open, and as like yesterday, this could be a little tricky in terms of trading, even though the targets are still higher. You can see here yesterday we kind of paused a little bit and had to have a little bit of a red to green move before starting up. We can do the same thing today. Anytime you get aggressive with the momentum after a big gap up, you're subject to a little bit of exhaustion risk in the very short run. So it becomes a tricky day trading environment. But the main thing is, until we get some kind of a failure of any kind on the daily chart, which would mean we'd have to kind of, the structure of the 15-minute chart would have to break down. We'd have to get below the midpoint of the prior day to say maybe this breakout's failing. Until we get that, we're expecting higher. And if we look at the bigger picture, when we zoom it out, we've been talking about this broadening wedge that makes higher lower lows and possibly higher highs. And you can see here, this is the obvious next target. But internally, we're kind of taking out this target today, it looks like, and that was the weekly high. So as we kind of work up towards this target on the weekly chart, you can see it's kind of a compound. This is 1 bar, 2 bar. This is the 3rd bar, working up to take out the highs of this big red bar, since we kind of moved past the halfway point to that bar, didn't fail and start lower. So that's kind of what we're expecting until proven otherwise. And when we saw this tightening wedge, especially this failure on the downside 2 days ago, that was kind of the sign that the probability was to break out to the upside of this congestion, which could then propel it much higher within the context of this bigger time frame up to this area. And you can see there's even targets up here if everything really wants to work towards the top of this range in the bigger picture. This is zooming out the daily chart. So again, bias to the upside. I can't say how structure for sure is going to open, but we'll just see. It could be a tricky day. There's no real actionable signal in terms of a 2 down or a 2 up signal. So you're kind of at exhaustion risk anytime you have momentum to the upside. Generally, what you want to do is look for internal kind of liquidity runs to the downside. In other words, you look for certain internal lows on the day and then let those break, and then that'll be the signal to get long. So that's kind of what you want to patiently wait for on these gap ups, but you never know what structure is going to do. And there's still this next target kind of up here, which we're hitting, and then the big targets up here, towards like let's say the 407 area or something like that. So there's still room to go, but we're just going to have to see how structure unfolds, and it's a little tricky anytime you gap up. So if you use this day as kind of a guideline, you can see here even this was an internal little liquidity run to the downside, and that gave you the good buy to the upside. So with these gaps up, if you patiently wait for those, sometimes you get that. But this was a day where structure was still to the upside the whole way after this red to green. If structure really comes down, at that point, maybe we'll just have a pause day to the downside. So we're just going to have to see, we're going to have to judge it relative to the open and where the high or low of the day starts. So you don't want to see it come too low at that point. Then maybe you're getting more of a pause day, setting up for a failure day. But anyway, that's just big picture. Reaching our target, first target here, second target's up here. We have, a couple of days to go in the week. So let's just see if the momentum to the upside continues.